The Tide 5.
5 separate sporting topics, roughly a minute or so on each. When the bell reminds us, we go on to the next topic. Let's talk about Lulu Sun. 7 matches now played at Wimbledon and into the quarterfinals. And I know nothing about her Croatian opponent. I'm not even going to pretend that I know. I know nothing about it. But with most of the seeds out, surely you got to think she got a hell of a chance from here. What a story that would be. I mean, that would be one of the greatest ever New Zealand sporting achievements ever. The All Blacks, let me remind you, Dan Schofield from The Telegraph joined us on Friday.
I'll be very careful with what I say next because I'm sure it will come back to bite me. But I don't think this All Blacks team necessarily has the aura of previous teams.
Well, did that performance, even though it was a win, yes, it was a win, let's take the win, yes, take the win, of course, we take the win, was that performance enough to re-establish the All Blacks aura for you in Dunedin on Saturday night, was it? Ireland versus South Africa. Well, you know, the Yarpies aren't moaning about the fact that they only had 10 days to prepare. They looked pretty damn good. They looked actually better than they did at the World Cup last year. The European Football Championships, we've got 2 semi-finals. Spain, France, the Dutchies against the Poms, Lachlan. Were the Wah-Wahs robbed? I want to talk about the under-17 New Zealand men's basketball team as well. Coming fourth at the World Championships. What a hell of a ride that's been. But let's start with Lulu. Because this is just the best sports story going around New Zealand at the moment, is it not? And again, you know, you can scoff and mock and you can say, you know, she's a Kiwi. She was born here. That's good enough for me. This isn't Danny Lee, who arrived here as a teenager and uses New Zealand, as far as I'm concerned, as a convenience. Flies that flag, never been back since. But this young woman is a Kiwi, bona fide. Whether she was flying under the Swiss flag or whatever, she now flies under the New Zealand flag. It's not like, you know, the old Aussies who were claiming every single person that they possibly could who had immigrated before the 2000 Olympics and putting a green and gold on them. Out of nowhere, has already overachieved by making the quarterfinals and now plays an opponent, Lachlan, ranked at her highest, 19th, now ranked 37th. Top seeds out. There's still, is it Rybakina or Rybakina? I always get these.
Yeah, Rybakina. Yep. Elena Rybakina.
Still in the draw, but no Coco Gauff, who got knocked out today as well. She just seems really grounded, but better than that, I like the way that she's been playing. I mean, look at the highlights of these matches. She hits a damn good ball, a big, heavy ball, and doesn't seem to be overawed by circumstance. Now, even though she said standing in the tunnel at Wimbledon, going on to centre court, you know, got the goosebumps. Well, that's natural, isn't it? Getting a bit of nerves out there.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, when you look at the draw and you listen to, well, Chris Jones will be more on this, but when you listen to Dave Worsley as well, and people that do know, it doesn't appear as though that there's a Novak Djokovic lurking somewhere on the other side of the draw, is it? It looks as though she got as good a chance as anybody from here.
Well, yeah, and the strange thing, we say this a lot about women's tennis, it is absolutely the case that you'll have a group of 3, 4, 5 players who are supposedly the best in the world, and they'll more often than not win the majors. You know, most notably Iga Swiatek, who's won the most, I think, of the last 3 or 4 years. But you do have so many players who are very low seeds, or they are qualifiers or unseeded, and they come out of nowhere and make a final, or they win it. So that's why, you know, there's a double-edged sword. There's that side of it, which means that a lot of big guns get knocked out earlier than they probably should. And you look at the draw for Lulu Sun, it's very favourable at the moment. Yeah, very favourable. Yeah. You know, you've got Coco Gauff, who's gone. You've got another number of the other big seeds who are gone. Elena Rybakina's the best remaining one. Elena Svitolina's still in there, who's quite good. So is Danielle Collins, who's a pretty good player. But no, I mean, she's got, as is the case with most female Grand Slam tournaments, she has as good a chance really as any other player, probably ranked outside the top 10, because we always see these upsets. And she's already taken down the 8th best player in the world. She just took down Raducanu, who has been all over the place the last couple of years. But she is a good player because she's won a Grand Slam. No, she's got as good a chance as most, I would say.
I gave the All Blacks a C+. What do you give them after that first test against Dunedin? Here are the positives for me. We won the game. We're going to get better. I do believe that we will get better.
Yep.
And I also thought that there were several individual performances which were worthy of note. I thought Damien McKenzie was very brave. I can't understand how anyone misses goal kicks under the roof when there's no bloody wind, and that could have been really costly. And if the Poms had to kick their goals, you got to remember they were 15-0 up. They had a chance to actually add another 5 points on top of that, okay? Now, if they were 10 points clear and we needed to score, it's all whatever, because we won the game. A C+, which to me is never good enough for the All Blacks. It's as simple as that. I want better than that.
Agreed. Absolutely.
That's all.
By the way, just quickly.
I don't want us to be a team that other teams look at and think we're vulnerable, we can beat you guys. I want us to be the team that other teams look at and fear us like they used to. And the only way to do that is to win test match after test match and play really well and be convincing. The All Blacks are great. They're not good. They're not a half-assed New Zealand sports team like the White Ferns and the Football Ferns and the Black Caps. They're not. And if you want them to be that and think that they are that, well, then you're a different fan than me. That's okay.
Yeah.
Accept mediocrity with the All Blacks. It's over.
Agreed. Absolutely agree. But just quickly, there's this idea that the All Blacks are always rusty in their first test of the year. I'm going to read you out some scores. Last year, the All Blacks' first test of the year, 41-12, they beat Argentina. 2022, 42-19, they beat Ireland. 2021, 102-0, they beat Tonga. 2020, COVID year, was the draw with Australia 16-all in Wellington. 2019, 20-16, we beat Argentina. Sure, that wasn't so great. 2018, 52-11, we beat France. 2017, 78-0, we beat Samoa.
Okay, so what it is you get fed this horse shite from the mass media and you spoon it and you believe it,
that
ladies
we're rusty.
and gentlemen. That we're rusty.
Look, in all these performances, they may not have looked 100%, but damn, they won by a lot.
Was that a good England side?
It is a good England side. Look, New Zealand sports fans will sit there and go on about, England are this or that or whatnot. Oh, this Welsh team isn't that great. Ireland are superb. They're so good. I reckon there's under 1% of sports fans in maybe more than that, but there's not many sports fans in New Zealand that sit there, watch English club rugby, watch French club rugby, the United Rugby Championship and the Six Nations and all these tests outside of Super Rugby and the All Blacks. I don't think they do. So there's no one who can sit there and say, oh, I know actually how good England is. I'm fairly rated. There's not many at all. So everyone is always going to either underrate or overrate an opponent when they come here because we don't watch them enough. You and I don't watch them enough, and we'll happily admit that. So this England side, from what I've heard from people we've had on the show and things I've read, is they're getting better, they're improving, and they're actually a bit more of an expansive, exciting side than Steve Borthwick, the coach, would have you think they are. And so I expected a very good English side. And I thought they looked good, and I thought we were average. I thought C+
Ireland
is
versus South Africa. What did you think about those two teams? Both those teams look better than us.
Yes.
And that's the South African side. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, if you're talking about lack of preparation, they don't have a domestic competition that their teams play in. Okay? They don't have a Super Rugby anymore. Their guys play all over the world is what they do.
They still have the Curry Cup.
But it doesn't get played before the international season starts.
So it's like the NPC where it's
So they assemble for 10 days. They looked better than they did in the World Cup final last year. How can they do that yet we don't? This is the same group of players. Don't get conned, ladies and gentlemen, to thinking that this is a new All Black side. It's not. There were no debutants. 9 of these guys played the Rugby World Cup final.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah,
so these guys have played dozens of tests together.
For me, that's the key. Is that, well, there's two things that are key. That's one of them that you've brought up, actually, is that out of those 23 players that took the field, there were no debutants.
No.
There's, five picked in this squad for the England and Fiji tests, and yet none of them, obviously Stephen Perifetis barely played 2 tests, but none of them were debutants. So you can't bring up this whole, they're rusty, they haven't been together much, it's a new era, don't worry, Razor will get the best out of them. That's fine, he probably will, but let's fairly critique this match that we're isolating, because we did that, I think, with the, when we were winning a lot of tests. Anyway, but there's another thing that's key for me is that 2 things that were glaringly terrible about the All Blacks the last sort of 5, 6, 7 years was our inability to combat a rush defence or really good line speed from the opposition, which a number of opponents have done that to us. Ireland, England, and South Africa most notably over the last 7 or 8 years. The other thing is, because of that, is the wayward passing that happens first or second receiver. The amount of balls that go to ground. Like, don't you guys spend days in camp together and don't you run these drills where supposedly those balls always go to hand, right?
But apparently 10 days in camp together isn't long enough to prepare.
But also, just in the second half, that England forward pack just monstered us in parts.
Were the Warriors robbed? God, that was frustrating. I hate Golden Point.
No.
I hate Golden Point. But were the Warriors robbed?
Oh, look, I didn't watch a huge amount of the match. I've only seen some highlights, but from what I've seen, they were stiffed by the refs.
They're stiffed in that last call, no question about that. Did they deserve to win? I'll ask Tony Kemp all about this after 3 o'clock. Look, you don't want to bitch about the referee, but it's just when it's so obvious and so blatant and it's in front of you and it's such a crucial time of the game when the scores are level and it's a kickable kick from 20 metres and it's obviously a foul act. Why can't they see this?
I don't know. I really don't know.
I mean, bring back the Jason Paris who sits there, drinks 9 cans, and then has a go at the end. Bring back that guy because he seemed to be able to get things done last year when he reacted to it. The rest of us can scream into a microphone and nothing happens.
My only guess is that they're so over-resourced with their number of officials they have on field, with the bunker, with the amount of comms that's forced through their ears, the amount of rules in a rule book, how big that rule book is now, how much they have to absorb and learn for the job, that it takes the natural feel out of officiating a game. So when it comes down to something like that, the referees get spooked and think, okay, I've got to tick all these boxes to make sure I'm doing my job right, instead of actually looking at the incident and officiating it logically. That's my only guess.
Okay, so when I say to you, late hit, what is the key word there?
What does the rule book say then?
Well, if it's a...
What does the rule book say?
Well, what is a late hit?
Illegal's my first thought
No, but
when
what
I
is
hear
a
that.
late hit? It's late.
Yeah, when the ball's gone and
The
they hit
ball's
hard.
gone, the guy gets hit. That is a penalty.
So here's the thing, but you can slow it down, and if it was a hit where the guy's tackling the bloke where he's just gotten rid of it and there's no time and it seems it's not late, it's fair. If you slow it down enough, it looks late and then it's a penalty, isn't it?
The only reason I don't think they gave a penalty is because the guy had a broken jaw at the end of it. Jamin Salmon. And he's bleeding from the mouth. And so whenever anyone gets injured, it's like football, two guys collide and they both fall over.
But did the ref know straight away as soon as the hit happened that he'd broken his jaw?
Well,
Probably
he didn't
not.
know he'd broken
in
his
that
jaw, but
space
there
of 2 or
was
3.
blood spilling
So
out.
what? It's a foul act. Why didn't he?
Just blow the... Yeah.
Why didn't he give a penalty?
Bloody frustrating. And it could be, that you go back and you point to moments in the season.
Then again, that was how many how many minutes to go in the game?
7 or 8.
7 or 8 to go. That would have put you up by 2, right?
Yeah, so there's still time for them to come back down the
it's
other
not as if that's at 0-0.
I know, I accept that. But the European Football Championship, Spain versus France, Dutchies versus England. Are these the 4 best teams in Europe?
Well, I don't know, because they're the 4 that are there, so the easiest answer is to say yes, but I mean, I would think...
Well, before the tournament started, we all thought the French would go, right?
I thought they'd go.
I think most people thought England would probably get to this stage.
I thought they'd get to the semis. I did my own little bracket.
I bet on Spain right at the start of the tournament, and so that bet's still holding.
Really?
Yeah. Okay. Good young side, and I bet on the Krauts as well, and Spain beat them.
Well, so Germany's the one side that's not there. I won't say that should be. Portugal to an extent as well, but they weren't that great. They had a couple of opportunities that they missed against France. Germany looked good against Spain. I don't think they were thoroughly outplayed, and they had a few chances themselves. But I think they'd beat England if they played. I think they'd probably beat the Netherlands as well, who sort of like England have lucked out with the draw a wee bit. And probably France, to be fair. Then again, it's just speculating. And so as it stands, the 4 best teams are the ones in the semis because they're the ones that are in the semis.
So finally, the New Zealand under-17 men's basketball team doing what the Elders did in 2002 by making the semi-finals of a World Championship. This is a fantastic result. Yes, it's age group sport, of course. Yes, of course. And
ideally, it's a sign of things to come, isn't it?
Well, anytime, again, to me, it's like Lulu getting through to the quarterfinals. Anytime that New Zealand, we're not meant to make the semi-finals of a tournament like that against the resources of the countries that we're up against. So congratulations to this young bunch of lads. We'll be talking to a couple of them in the coach in the next couple of days.
Are you better off just hitting a kick if you can, if the platform's strong?
Devlin.
You've got to love sport.
The Platform.